taste, take a taste. Take a taste, take a taste. Take a taste, take a taste. Take a taste, take a taste. Hey, hey. Waiting for the gate to open to get in the show. My plan was to be there early, but traffic was slow. Anyway, I reached the tent on time, but I had to join a line. If you see big crowd partner waiting to enjoy the soca line.
APNU AFC promised more jobs and a good life. Instead, we lost 30,000 jobs. Taxes went up, people are less safe, and cost of living skyrocketed. Now, after 4 years of neglect and corruption, the APNU AFC gang are coming with more empty promises, only cause they need you now. We are smart. Fool me once, shame on you. This time, we will not be fooled by your sneaky fake news APNU promises. We vote in PPPC to get Guyana working again.
The transformation of the Guyanese economy from 1992 to 2015 was monumental. I think anybody who came to this country, and I've talked to many who were...
You will benefit. Your children will benefit. And some of us will be in our rocking chairs, as I always say, my hammock, and be proud that you as a young person got involved in ensuring that you take the opportunity that is given to you as we go into the new decade of economic boom, as we go into the decade of having new industries and the creation of 50,000 jobs and the reviving of our known industries, not to ensure that we get the Dutch disease for oil. And the reason why I believe it's very important, and Mr. Jordan even agreed that he is already causing the Dutch disease, because what has happened? And what is the Dutch disease? The fact that you're betting the farm on oil. When you let all the other industries go, such as rice and sugar and forestry and gold and our tourism sector, when you do not take care of those sectors, like Trinidad right now, Trinidad is suffering because their one industry of oil or gas has tanked. They have run out of that commodity, and they're struggling because they have no other industries. So why is it important when you listen to Mr. Irfan Ali talk about reviving our productive sectors, and he talks about the industries, the sugar, the rice, the forestry, what he will do to ensure that those industries come back to where they need to be and grow? How do we invest in the other productive sectors and the other sectors in our nation? That is why it is important for you to understand, debate, ask the questions, get involved in groups in your community, and look where your community fits in the Guyana boom going forward. Where does you as a person, as a citizen, as a young person fit in the future of Guyana? How do you win the future? And in order to win the future, you got to get involved. If we're talking about those new industries, if we are talking about diversification of sugar, and it's sad that 30,000 people out of work. I'm heading to Berbice today, and I will be discussing with the sugar industry how we will revive and how we plan to diversify that industry. How do we plan to bring back those jobs? How do we create new jobs? And those are very critical components of the PPP manifesto, and you're seeing pieces of it come out, and as soon as we have an election date, you will see the entire document published. But I will tell you, I've told this before, it's not a bundle of promises. It is commitments, but it's commitments with a plan, and a plan that is tied to a financial strategy that, when implemented, produces results that gives us an opportunity for everyone to benefit, from jobs, from businesses, to the tax system. All of the components that needs to benefit from a plan that has a financial strategy with it. That is what you will see in the PPP manifesto. And if you just look back at a couple of years ago when Dr. Jagdeo came out with the low carbon development strategy, the low carbon development strategy was what you call an economic strategy. It made money. The fact that we control the carbon emissions, the fact that Norway paid for that carbon emission control in our forestry, we produce enough to sell at even higher rates. The fact that the low carbon strategy, we were contributing to the environment around the world and we were getting paid for it. That was what the low carbon development strategy was. Compare that now to Mr. Granger green paint strategy. That is not an economic strategy. It doesn't bring any money to the country. It may suggest that it meets some environmental conditions, but it contributes nothing to the world stage. And the fact that we don't benefit from Mr. Granger green paint strategy. We have to ensure that, when you talk about green strategy and low carbon development strategy, that it is us. It's our product. The forest, controlling the cutting down of trees in our forests is a commodity that is worth money. And the fact is, when you develop that strategy, as Dr. Jagdeo did a few years ago, we were paid for the control of carbon emissions. So that is probably just another example of the difference between how the PPP manages the country and how Mr. Granger has failed to manage. He doesn't understand the strategy. If you ask him what is his green paint strategy, he will tell you it's a nice document, here it is. You ask Dr. Jagdeo and the PPP administration what was the low carbon development strategy, and initially you'll talk about Norway, you'll talk about $250 million coming into our treasury, you'll talk about future opportunities to contribute to the world climate environment. That's the difference. And what Mr. Ali is going to continue is that development strategy that puts in place the plans necessary to ensure that Guyana, that we win our future. I use the term winning our future. Mr. Ali's and his administration that will be elected shortly is about winning our future. We want that. We don't want to see our children looking at their parents that are sitting at home right now watching this show, knowing that they have no jobs. We don't want our next generation to have to face that. We don't want the generation coming out of the University of Guyana right now that is getting a degree in the next couple months can't find a decent opportunity. We don't want that. That's why the plans will be committed, not promises that Mr. Granger did in 2015 that was never delivered, but his commitments with opportunities, with the financial strategy, with measurable results that will produce that opportunity and that job you're looking for, that investment strategy. Business coming in, foreign investors will be excited to once again, storm our land, because Guyana in the next decade will have an economic boom. And we have to make sure that we use that economic boom to develop our entire nation, our entire industries. If you're a farmer, you really want to stay being a farmer, because the fact is, if we can have large production growth in our agriculture, non-traditional agriculture, we expand our port industry, we expand our air cargo industry, we create the environment for for lower tariffs on taxes on our goods and products, we will be able to compete on the world market. The fact that the Caribbean imports $800+ billion of food a year into the Caribbean. Imagine, nobody grows food in Trinidad and Barbados and St. Kitts, maybe a couple side gardens. They have to buy food from Chile, Dominican Republic, Thailand. Cruise ships are bringing in products from Thailand to refuel the fuel ships in the Caribbean Sea. Imagine, you as a farmer, expanding your opportunity. We will be able to create the environment where investors will come in and expand that industry to ensure your goods, your food products, your non-agricultural products gets to market on time, much less delivering it a better quality to our local market. As we look at the energy, solving the energy solution, and Ms. Ali, I believe, will present that plan very shortly in terms of how the PPP administration of the next election plan to concentrate on our energy department. We know, energy sector, we know that when Mr. Jagdeo did the Amalia Falls, that would have been up today. We would have seen significant lower cost in the electric bill. We know what happened. Mr. Granger discontinued it. He had no vision, no idea of why you would have the largest hydro plant in the region. You can sell power to northern Venezuela, northern Brazil and eastern Venezuela. You would have made money. Instead, he stopped the project, can't even upgrade our generators, and we get blackout. So the energy sector, Mr. Ali will present what is it, the integrated approach in how we will bring that energy cost down. When you bring that energy cost down, the first thing that happens is more money in our pockets. Businesses start to grow because they can now get into manufacture. So as a farmer, your produce may not need to be sold, and wasted. Sometimes many of you go to border market, can't sell your products, you go home very sad, you've got to dump all those things in the trash. Imagine those products being manufactured, peppers turning into pepper sauce, and larger production scale of pineapples. And you buy a tin of pineapple around the world in a can, you're paying $2-3 for that can that maybe have 4 or 5 slices or less of pineapple, right? We sell a pineapple in the market for way less than that. Imagine now as a farmer, you want to grow more pineapples. And that is what is exciting about the next decade, and what is exciting about why I believe, and we believe, under Mr. Ali administration, we will win the future. We will move forward. And so as we argue and debate and complain and get angry that Mr. Granger is disobeying the Constitution and he's not following the rule of law, we have an exciting time. We will have election at some point very soon, and that choice is ours. We will ensure that what I just described in just a quick summary of winning the future of our nation and going forward with a plan that makes Guyana a better place where all of us get a part of it. And that will take brains, it will take a plan that is measurable, it will take people that understands what they're doing, it will take an integrated approach of the tax system being reduced so money can get back into the nation and into people's pocket, and then that money then is utilized for growth and investment at different levels. And as you bring taxes down, you create new industries, you reduce energy, and you expand industries such as the manufacturing and the energy sector, and you look across things like the low carbon strategy, and you look at putting together natural gas and hydro and an integrated solar plant, and looking at upgrading our generating system and not getting the reality of blackouts anymore. That is commitment, not a promise. It's a commitment with a plan to make it happen at the shortest period of time possible. And with that, you require a team that is managed with a visionary. I talk a lot about Mr. Ali because I hang around him a lot, and that passion and that vision and the understanding of the components of an integrated plan for Guyana. We talk a lot about economics, but you have our culture, you've got our sport industry, you have the tourism sector. You have so many components of what it takes to manage a nation, and the vision that you have to have that says, we as a people of Guyana, given the opportunity of what we have inherited, will win the future. And no Mr. Granger, no disobeying of the Constitution, no disobeying and hindering our democratic right to vote. I really believe Mr. Granger is now on trial. Mr. Granger, you are now on trial. You have disobeyed the law. You have not called elections. 8 months, you have found ways to beat the system, per se. If you have committed a murder and you hire a good lawyer, that good lawyer is going to tell you, let's go to court, let's tell the judge, I'm not guilty. You know you're guilty. The lawyer knows you're guilty, but he's going to tell the judge you're not guilty, because now he's going to spend the next couple of years taking your money and try to figure out how to find a technicality to get you off of a murder charge that is true. Mr. Granger is on trial. He's got lawyers that knows he is guilty of breaking the law, of not following the Constitution, of delaying tactics, playing off GCOM on one side and not following the court orders on the other side, and getting his lawyers to play an unguilty plea continuously in order to delay the fact that he will be proven guilty. There's no technicality, Mr. Granger, that can get you off of September 18th. No technicality. We now know election cannot happen by September 18th because the time is running out. The fact that you will be guilty for breaking the Constitution on September 18th by not calling elections. And you have, whether you call it or not between now and September 18th, you still would have broken the law because you did not follow the 3 months based on the Constitution. So, you're guilty. You're on trial. The world is watching the trial. And your defense is very weak. They're delaying tactics. We all know. I saw Ms. Gail Sher put a letter, I think, in the papers today that talks about the MAC problem that the PNC have had for decades. They have lost 1968, 73, 80 elections, 85 elections. 60% of people voted for them when we know all the elections was rigged. We know that they waited in 2019 and said 34 was bigger than 33. They have a MAC problem. And Mr. Granger, nothing you can do. You can go back to the 1970 and live in that bubble. But the fact that you're on trial and you will be found guilty of breaking the Constitution, the supreme law of our land, September 18th, regardless of what date you call after that, you will become an illegal president. You remain in office. But anyone doing anything, I've talked to a lot of investors this week. Some are very, very concerned. Some are even signing deals as we speak with Go Invest and Nissel and other areas taking land. You know what? They're worried. We know there's some corruption involved. Some of them have said that they have to pay. And, we are very clear. You sign a deal with this caretaker government, you are going to be caught in the ring. The fact that you have also broken the law. Because you know, and if you're coming in and you're investing in our nation, and you're a local investor or foreign investor, our law says that this government is a caretaker government. They cannot distribute land, they cannot sign contracts, they cannot do anything outside the caretaker mode of our country. So you sign that deal, you also are breaking the law because you are signing it knowing the fact that Mr. Granger is on trial for breaking a law. If any one of us breaks the law, any one of us, we will be arrested. We will go to trial. And if we found guilty, we will go to jail. So, Mr. Granger, you're on trial. You have already passed the stage. No matter what you do now, we know you can't call election for September 18th. You've got to know that after that date, you are an illegal president. That your entire cabinet is now longer in a caretaker mode. The caretaker mode ends on September 18th. There may be some choices of dissolving parliament and hanging on. But that's just like I mentioned in the murder charge. A lawyer trying to delay, trying to find the technicality before the judge to see if he can get you off. But Mr. Granger, the world is watching. The jury is us, the citizens, across the political divide. We are the jury. We have seen the evidence, and we know you're guilty. And the law of our land will win. The supreme law of our land will win, Mr. Granger. The fact that you're no longer in the 1970s, you no longer can rig elections, you no longer can be known and act like a dictator. You may try, you may be getting away with it because you're manipulating the system. But at some point, karma will catch up with you. And the fact that you will be held accountable for not following the rule of law. So taking your advice from lawyers that are trained to go to a judge and say, my client is not guilty, knowing very well your client is guilty. Their job is to do whatever it takes to get their client off, regardless of morality, regardless of breaking the law. You've got those same lawyers on your side that is telling you, just say I'm not guilty. Just say you're not guilty. Continue to do what you're doing. But at the end, the jury is the citizens. And when the jury goes to the polls, no matter how long you take, no matter what date we have an election, when we, the jurors, the citizens, go to the poll, you will be found guilty. And you will no longer have that opportunity to hold the office of the president. And you and maybe a lot of other people may be worried about the consequences of your actions going forward. So, Mr. Granger, you're on trial. Ensure that you tell your lawyer, if you're guilty, you know you're guilty, it's better to cut the deal. Better to concede, come back and says, I'm guilty, I'm going to call elections. I'll take your phone calls. I promise to take your phone calls. Looking forward to your conversations. Hello?
Down, Peter, how are you?
Good, very well.
That man, Mr. Granger, I don't want to call him president. The man has far tongue. The man telling people one thing, and when Mr. Jagger can do something else. Because he come here the other day there just to show that he got interest in the country, but he just got mama guy himself.
Thank you. Well, yes, I mean, it's all Mr. Granger. I said, I mean, I used the murder charge. I used the fact that he's on trial. He is delaying every possible opportunity. He gets to delay the tactic, play the delaying tactic he's doing. But you know what? As the 12 jurors sit in the courtroom, they're hearing the arguments, they're watching the faces. What we are doing as citizens, and the world is watching, is seeing everything Mr. Granger does. Every law he breaks, every tactic that he produces is being seen, and we will have a choice of making our final decision. Good day.
Hi, good day.
Good day.
Yes, talking about the constitution about registration, right? Of house. There's not going to happen, right?
Well, one, it can't happen. It's not an illegal process.
But I want to do house registration when everybody name is on the list already.
Yes. And I think the GCOM chairman, the way I interpret her statement today, she said everyone should be registered. She never said anyone should re-register. If you're not on the list, you will have an opportunity to go to claims and objections and get your name on the list. Yes. So she made a very good statement today. Thank you. She made a very good statement today that says, you know, if you're not, you need to get registered. Your constitutional right is to vote. She never said get re-registered, because I'm already registered. You're already registered. If you're not registered, you have a constitutional right to get registered, and you must have that opportunity. And GCOM, all these 8 months, all the last 4 years, have given a lot of us the opportunity to do that. They didn't do it this year. They need to get it done this year now, claim an objection period, and get on with getting all those who are not on the list registered. Yes, hello.
Hello, yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm just trying to make a contribution to what if the PPP was in power and the Lucansian motion was called against the PPP, the entire Charleston would have been already burned down. The PPP would have already burned down the entire Charleston.
Well, that is
And
probably...
the Indian people all the Indian people going to walk the street nowhere in this country. From Buxton, Agricola, Linden, nowhere. They would have been beaten by the African Guyanese.
Thank you. Well, we have seen the violence at election time, and there's a statement that I had on the last show. I don't know if the operator has it available. What Mr. Williams said about the dire consequences of what will happen if they don't get what they want. We have seen the violence of the past. I know a lot of details of those violence, but I want to go back. We, the people of our nation, you hear the term people power. We have the power to shut this down. We have the power to ensure that people do not break the law at the highest office in our land. We have the power, and that's where, as we get closer to this unconstitutional piece where we're going into, we need to have that people power. Hello.
Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon.
The government is taking us back to boredom, crucial, hatred, racial. That's what's going on. And we need this country to move forward. We are suffering, brother. Look, I sent my wife to market the money into. I hungry home too now. And this government taking 500 US a day. They eat food for every day 500 each one of those ministers. $500 US. And a shame of them and be hungry. You know?
Thank you. The dietary budget had gone up to, for the government, in the billions. The caller is right. If you go into government office, they have catered services in many areas, many functions. When in parliament, they cater the best foods, while people are punishing. You know, in Essequibo, in the Pomeroon right now, there's the closure of a coconut factory that the government shut down for whatever reasons. 3,000 rice farmers or coconut farmers now are on the breadline. There's no way to sell their coconuts. Government cares? No. Did they try to resolve the situation in a timely manner? No. Have they resolved the sugar industry woes? Mr. Jordan said the other day that he needs more time. The $30 billion bond that they raised to restructure the sugar industry have somewhat disappeared in how to manage that. But you know what? It's the people. It's we, the citizens, that have to, as the caller said, send his wife to the market. The money didn't do. That is not a caring government. And Mr. Granger, your trial and the evidence is getting worse. The evidence is mounting up, not only the failure for you disobeying the Constitution, but new evidence, and evidence has been presented over the last 4 years. You lied about your promises. You lied, Mr. Granger. You didn't deliver. You've caused economic woes. You've raised your taxes. That evidence, Mr. Granger, when the jury comes out at that poll, none of us should not come back unless it's a guilty verdict. Hello. Sorry. No one of us listening to the evidence, being part of seeing with our own eyes what is happening, feeling the pain from the economic side, seeing your tax bill and your electric bill and your water bill going up. We don't have to manufacture evidence that Mr. Felix and Mr. Master Williams did in the early days. You know, there's some tapes going around. Whatever those tapes say something about planting evidence. I need to watch it a little more closely. But the fact is, we don't have to plant evidence. The evidence is with us. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This chap, Dr. Philip, this chap was right a lot. I can't remember his name, but these two people are Americans. They are all dual citizens. They are playing a big part in Guyana. That's one. Mr. Granger has broken the Constitution. He's committed a treason. He should go to jail. That's all I got.
Thank you. Well, I go back again to my analogy. Mr. Granger is on trial. We know he has broken the Constitution. We know he has been sitting in office 8 months when he should have been out of the office, or at least have the election, and maybe a jury 3 months, 4 months, 6 months ago may have found him not guilty and give him an opportunity. Now that the evidence has piled up, now that we have been able to compile it and present a better case to the jury, the jury, Mr. Granger is in deep trouble. The fact is, he will be found guilty and have to move out of office. Hello.
Oh, hi, Peter.
Hi.
The only thing President Granger is really good at, he and his honchos are taking people back in time. They are living in the past, and everything he preaches about, he talks about what happened in the past. He has no vision for the future, and I hope people out there are paying attention. He doesn't know what to do with this country. I don't think there is any plan yet of where the oil is concerned. So I hope for betterment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
As I said in the early part of the program, we know what is happening in our nation. We know we want to win the future. We want to win Guyana's future for our young people, for our children, for ourselves, for our grandparents. We want to finally prove that we can manage and grow our economy in the next decade the way people expect it to grow. Mr. Granger can live in the past in the 1970 all he wants. He barely got an opportunity by a couple thousand votes in 2015. He has squandered that. He lied to you to get those votes. Him and Mr. Nagamutu made a whole load of promises. If you strip the two of them down, you've got nothing but, two joker cards. When you buy a deck of cards, you get 54 cards. Only 52 of them you can really use. There's 2 extra cards in there. They're called the joker's cards. You don't use them. You put them on the side. That's what we have. We have the top 2 jokers running our nation that doesn't understand. Mr. Nagamutu have no clue. People call him the rubber stamp. A rubber stamp is probably even a good name. The fact that he has no authority. He has presented no vision, no idea. He sits there, he shakes his head, whatever Mr. Granger said. Mr. Granger says nothing. The caller said no vision. His green paint strategy that he presented to us for 2040 is a bundle of painting of green buildings. And, I mentioned last program, Mr. Granger raised the taxes on the interior flights. He did. On the passengers and the cargo goods. The PPP pre-manifesto came out last week and said that one of the first acts of Mr. Ali as president will be to reverse the taxes on the interior. Mr. Ali actually was in the interior in Mazaruni, going and telling people they will reverse the taxes. Mr. Granger put those taxes on. Mr. Granger got on the same time and went to Mazaruni in the interior and announced he's taking the taxes off. He failed and lied and didn't tell the people, well, you know what, we put it on. They put it on. And if Mr. Ali didn't present the fact that he was going to take it off, so they're now stealing the manifesto of the PPP. So the evidence mounts. We, the jurors, will have an opportunity very soon, as we go to the polls. The choice is very clear. How do we win Guyana's future? What does it take for each of us? The first step is that vote, is that X that says, I'm voting for the new generation. I'm voting for a young person that better understands our nation, better understands what it's like to see his parents have to do things in life. He sees his counterparts, his other folks that he grew up with that don't have jobs. He has been able to see that. He has done a great job as minister, hundreds of thousands of house lots and housing developments in our country. He believes in winning the future. And by winning the future, he is going to ensure that the plans that is presented is doable. Doable. Because you know what? The difference between a young, passionate person, they don't want someone coming and tell them, boy, you dumb, you can't deliver that. You promised it, you committed to it, you can't deliver. So Ms. Ali is forced, he's energized to ensure that he puts the right plans in place to deliver. Mr. Granger, the great-grandfather or the grandfather, you know, should be in his rocking chair or his hammock, enjoying life, wants to come now and try to manage a 21st century economy. Mr. Granger last sat in an office in the 1970s. He didn't even have a decent job. He was a desk officer. Didn't have a chance to create policy. Never had a chance to run a large business or pay employees. Didn't have that opportunity. I honor his service to the nation. You know, I always honor the service to the nation of anyone that serves in our military or armed forces. But Mr. Granger has no vision, he has no understanding, and he has proven. And the trial that he's going through right now for breaking the Constitution, for tanking our economy, for putting taxes on our pensioners, for taking young people data plan and taxing it, for putting taxes on water and electricity, for raising your license fees and your farmer drainage, taking away the school children taxes. Mr. Granger, the evidence is mounting. You have no vision, but you did some bad things. You're guilty of the bad things, and the penalty will be severe. And as we go into the election mode, and we're in election mode, regardless of the fact that Mr. Granger is sitting back, refusing to call a date, blaming GCOM. GCOM had 8 months to get ready. They had billions of dollars. They started a project that was illegal, that was ordered by an illegal chairman. The courts have ruled all of that. Yet, Mr. Granger believes he can pawn the guilt to GCOM. Mr. Granger, you're the president. You're the one on trial, not GCOM. You're the one that is supposed to call the election date. You're the one that has to follow the law. You're the one that swore to uphold our Constitution. Don't blame others. The lawyers that are telling you these things is putting you in jeopardy, that you are guilty. And at some point very soon, the stamp, that print on that ballot paper will tell you that you're guilty. But I always want to make sure that as we deal with the crap of Granger and his government, we deal with the inconsistencies, the delaying tactics, as we deal with the punishment of our people across our country, as we deal with so many people out of work. Don't let's forget that it's our job to come together to win our future. Yes, hello.
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
That man is senile, and he's about a box soldier.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, I always tell, I hope myself, you know, if I've contributed and I believe I cannot contribute anymore, and I'm up in age, and there's some young, bright person like Mr. Fanali that has stepped up to the plate, so many other young people. We saw a young counselor out of the PNC, Mr. Dave Danny, that left the PNC and basically said, you know, I'm a young person, I want to be part of the future, and decided to come on board with our team to help us. But Mr. Granger has passed the stage of brain function, and it's not anything to do, all of us will get there. All of us, as we get older, will get there. But the difference is, we're not in a position to hurt any other person. Mr. Granger is in the position to hurt the people of Guyana, and he has done that. Mr. Granger should have retired. He did retire from the army. He did retire of his businesses. He has no job really taking the role of president. And to even try to campaign again is telling us that, if you have no understanding of what you're doing, let the young people, let the new generation take control. Give them the opportunity, as the PPP has done with Mr. Ali. Give him the opportunity. His job now is to deliver. And he will work with all of us across the political divide. I go into areas like South Georgetown and Charlestown and All Boys Town, and I walk sometimes and I listen to people, that may not be, maybe the less fortunate among us. And I looked at them, I said, you know what? Growth and the future, not because you're stuck in an environment, we all can make it. What you need is an opportunity to make it. We can criticize all we want, but we want opportunities. And what Mr. Ali has promised is the fact that given our new economy, given what will come our way in the next decade, given the fact that he's got the plans that were tested in the past, he has added those new plans to the ones that have been tested, have proven to work. The ones that didn't work, the criticisms that the PPP may have done, things that maybe weren't proven to be right, he has discarded those. And he will tell you, what were the bad is gone. And his commitment to the future is to win the future. And that is where we get our excitement and our passion from. That's where we get our excitement, because we know that given that opportunity, as I go around into South Georgetown and I go into Charlestown and other areas in Pomeroon, I'm a son of a preacher man. We had nothing. We did not have, I remember wearing my first long pants when I was 10. We used to get shoes from somebody that sent some barrel that had no relations to us. But the fact is, given the opportunity, all of us can develop ourselves. And what the PPP manifesto will give you, every person, every young person in our country, every citizen of our nation, regardless of your political affiliation, hear me once again, regardless of your political affiliation, you will have the opportunity and the opportunity to develop and make something of yourself. Make what it is your dream look like. We would have the industries necessary. If you want to remain a manufacturer worker, you will be able to do that. If you want to create your own plant, you'll be able to do that. If you want to look at the tourism industry, if you want to get into the hospitality arena, you will have that opportunity. Jobs will be created. Real jobs will be created. Your infrastructure plan, as you look at new roads across our nation, you look at opening up the backlands from Temeri to Ogle, and you look at putting in new highways, and you look at how industries will develop. 20 minutes you'll be able to get from Temeri to Georgetown. When we put the right bridge across the Demerara River, in 2-3 minutes you can live on the West Coast and come to work in Georgetown. Or maybe new industries will be open in the West Coast, West Bank there, and you can West Bank, and you can go across the bridge the other way. The bridge across the Suriname was a part of our plan in 2015. That is still on the table. You start connecting our South American market. You started looking at the Brazilian connection in northern Brazil. You look at getting energy produced in Guyana, whether it's through natural gas or hydro. You sell that to other parts of the region, eastern Venezuela, northern Brazil, all needs power. These are where those job opportunities will come. And that's why when we say it, we believe in it, because we can deliver, because we have measured it, we have looked at the components, we understand the financial strategy that needs to be in place. How do we monetize a plan? How do we make it happen? Go back to my example of the low carbon strategy that made money from Norway, billions of dollars, versus Mr. Granger green paint strategy. That is a document that is not even beautiful. It may be green, but can be monetized. You can't make money off of it. And that's what our country needs going forward. We have to be able to win the future. We have to be able to be part. And again, no matter what your political conviction, you are seeing what's happening today. You know, a lot of people on the APNU side I talk to, they say, "Oh, Peter, we don't really like the PPP for whatever reason," and that's valid. But we know that they can manage the economy. We know we were doing better under PPP government. We know we will do better under a PPP government. And they say, "You know what, we will give you all an opportunity." And that's what excites us, because as we go across the political divide, it is not just about those that will support us and vote for us, but those that wouldn't have normally voted for us. And why will they vote for us this time? Is because they feel and they know Mr. Granger has not delivered. They did give him an opportunity, a fair opportunity. He lied to them. When you lie to someone, you don't recover. Mr. Granger, you've lied to the people of our nation. You cannot recover. And a lot of them, as they come in Mr. Jagdeo's office and Mr. Irfan Ali's office, and they talk about why they want to be part of our team, they're excited because they know if they join the team, they come together with us, working together across the political divide, across the racial divide, across the religious divide. We, with our hands together, will win Guyana's future. And that is where we are looking forward to in the next couple months to be able to do that. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm enjoying your program, Mr. Peter.
Thank you.
I hope you keep up the good work. But one thing, Mr. Sharley, you're always dividing PPP and PNC. I don't like that guy. But stop doing that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Always good words of encouragement. And, you know, I repeat the PPP manifesto, and I repeat, you know, Mr. Ali's commitment as the presidential candidate, as your next president. That commitment is to work with each of you. As he comes into your community, shake his hand. I tell you, look in his eyes. Tell him what is it you are missing. What is it that he or his team may have done bad in the past? What would you like to see them do better in the future? Be honest. Be straightforward. Because this is the decade that is not alone about the politicians. We, the people power, as we go into the unconstitutional crisis that Mr. Granger's created, that has not followed the law of our land. We can't just sit back and say, look what happened. Why is the PPP not doing more? Why is Mr. Granger not doing this? Fellow citizens, brothers and sisters, it's our democracy at stake. It is our children that will suffer. And we, the people, must step up. You see a protest out there in the near future. You're not joining a political party to protest. You're protesting against Mr. Granger in breaking the law. You are saying, I'm a juror. And Mr. Granger, you're on trial. And you are guilty. The evidence is there. Hello.
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 Hi, good day.
Good day.
Hi, am I live?
You're live.
Okay.
Hi.
My contribution today is the only thing that the government is pushing in the younger folks' head is race, because they have brought these Haitians that come in from a Jack. They had never said anything about race, and I heard it on a newscast that about this racial things. I have never heard racial slang or slurs coming from Mr. Jack's mouth myself. If anyone have heard it, maybe they can let me, or hear it.
Yes.
This is the only thing. The division is what they believe in, corruption and war.
Yes, thank you very much. I agree with the caller. Dr. Jagdeo and all of us, right? We believe in the Commonwealth free travel. The disagreement here is you can't come into our nation and then disappear. Our law of the land is being broken. Where is your exit? If you didn't exit, are you here longer than 6 months? Any foreign national, regardless of whether you're Haitians, Venezuelans, Cubans, the law is the law. And for Mr. Granger and his team to introduce race, the fact is that people are talking about the Haitian. They're talking about the Haitian because it's been exposed by Kaichor News that thousands and thousands of people from 2017 to on has come into Guyana and have disappeared. There's no exit stamp. Would you be worried if you go to America and you stamp in and you don't, and they catch you, you just getting deported. You're going to jail first and then deported because you broke their law. Why are we allowing people to break our law? We have to ensure, and the Brazilian government needs to pay very close attention to Suriname's government. If people are crossing out to Guyana, it is a transit point for trafficking. It's a very dangerous endeavor, and we all need to stop it. This is not a racial issue. If you come into the country, you bring your investment dollars and you're willing to contribute, bless your heart, all of us. But then Mr. Jordan said, hey, let them come in, take the jobs away from Guyanese and pay them lower rate. That's our problem. Well, Mr. Jordan, that is a sad thing that you said, because you can't even ensure that our citizens have jobs. You ensure that sugar workers were out of work. You ensure that the rice farmers are getting less paid for your rice. You now took away the coconut farmers. You've got the mining industries in disarray, Mr. Granger. You're on trial. And as I close the program, I want us, again, I'll take one last call and I'll close the program. Yes, hello? Missed you, thanks. We are in the election cycle. We are going in on constitution crisis, September 18. It's too late now for Mr. Granger even to call the elections. The GCON chairperson has to do what she can do. She said some good points today that you need to register if you have not registered. She never said we need to register again. That's an illegal process. Do not support it. If you're not on the list, you'll have an opportunity to get on the list prior to any elections. And you will have an opportunity to be that juror and vote Mr. Granger guilty of detriment to our nation, guilty of the economic decline, guilty of raising our taxes, guilty of taking the school children allowance away, guilty of not following the rule of law after December 21st, guilty of his green paint strategy that is not monetized and cannot bring any economics to our future, guilty for not coming up with a single new plan, single house lot for our country, can't even manage the projects that the PPP left him right. The road, East Coast Road, the airport was out of lights. Thousands of passengers, hundreds of passengers were laying on the floor because planes couldn't land. Mr. Granger, you can't even deliver on projects that were left with real money. You took our foreign reserve from 665 million down hundreds of US millions of dollars, gone. Our debt has gone up. Our public deposit has gone down. Real cash has disappeared. You're failed. Your trial is on. It's coming to a close. You will be found guilty. And it's time best as you can, confess. Call elections. Get the best date possible. As soon as we can. September 18th is your deadline. You have opportunities to confess and not take the court through the system of let you be proven guilty. Even with that, confession is a guilty confession, and when we go to the polls, all of us will have that opportunity to put a X against you, put a X for the PPP administration and young Irfan Ali, passionate, educated, ready to take our country forward. Like him or not, he's a brilliant chap. He's brilliant. He's passionate. He understands what it takes. And I believe, and I know him, and I will vouch for him, he will deliver for our country. He will deliver the plans. At the end of it, we will win Guyana's future. And our children, our young children, will benefit from the next decade of our economic boom. And all of us will have that opportunity to finally say Guyana is a united nation where all of us, we may be a land of many people, but with one destiny. We respect each other's culture. We respect each other's race. We respect each other's religious convictions. We believe in unity. And together, all of us working together, 2019 and beyond, with the PPP administration of the future, will make Guyana a place where all of us will once again say we're proud of our nation. People power. Remember, join us in standing up for democracy. Join us in your right for all of us to follow the rule of law. Join us in our commitment to make Guyana a better place. Thank you.